Welcome to Planet MicroCap. I'm your host, Robert Kraft, and joining me today is David Garofalo. He is the chairman and CEO of Gold Royalty Corp. It's a publicly traded company. The symbol is GROY on the NYSE American, and Gold Royalty will be presenting at the upcoming Precious Metal Summit Beaver Creek, happening September 13th through 16th, 2022. For more information, please visit precioussummit.com. And with that, David, thank you for joining me today. How you doing?
I'm well. Thanks for having me on, Robert.
It's great to have you. So we did an interview last year around this time, but before we get into all the updates and everything, can you start us off with that quick overview on who Gold Royalty is?
Sure. It's the newest entrant in the precious metal royalty space and also the fastest growing company. Since our IPO in March 2021, we've grown from 14 royalties on development stage assets to almost 200 royalties across the Americas, 8 in production, another 20 in various stages of construction and development. And as a result of all that, we have the highest compounded annual growth rate in revenue over the next 5 years at 60% per annum.
Very good. All right. So last time we did that interview together, we published that on August 25th, 2021. So let's get that update. What would you say are some of the company's highlights and milestones achieved over the last year or so?
Well, it started with our IPO in March of 2021, and that gave us the currency to do what we needed to do, which was starting to consolidate, which is what was a very fragmented sector. There were a lot of small cap companies, and we ended up merging with Ely Gold, Golden Valley, and Abitibi royalties. And as a result of that, we grew that royalty portfolio and vastly diversified it from 14 royalties on development stage assets and brought in cash flowing assets and royalties and grew that to over 200 royalties now across the Americas, with a heavy concentration in the 3 best jurisdictions in the world, Nevada, Quebec, and Ontario, on some of the largest, longest life gold deposits in the world.
So tell us, I mean, from your perspective, I've had a couple gold or precious metals royalty and streaming companies on here recently. You know, from your perspective, have you been busier than ever? I mean, it's kind of been an interesting time right now in the junior mining space, you know, so I'd love to hear your perspective there.
Well, look, based on the pace of our acquisitions, it's been the busiest time in my career from a transactional standpoint in terms of the royalties we've acquired. And we acquired it across multiple dimensions. We haven't just done it through M&A, though that's been a big driver of the growth in our royalty portfolio and diversification we've enjoyed. But we've also generated our own royalties internally. We have a team in Val-d'Or, we have a team in Reno, Nevada, and they generate their own royalties. In other words, they stake exploration claims, farm them out, and take royalties back when investments required in exploration on the ground. And that's allowed us to generate royalties effectively for free, just basically the sweat equity of our people on the ground that are long-term prospectors and great geologists. And so that's complemented our M&A strengths. We've also been quite active in acquiring individual royalty opportunities, either through auction processes or sometimes from prospectors that are looking to crystallize the value of their efforts on the exploration side.
Absolutely. And look, the reason I asked why, you know, you're busier than ever and why this has been an interesting time, because I mean, quite frankly, you know, some of the equity markets have been rather difficult, or it's been difficult for junior miners to raise money. So one avenue to get cash in the bank and continue to do their operation is to work with companies like Gold Royalty to sell off some of their streaming royalty rights. So I mean, are you still seeing that? Do you still see that being a problem in the foreseeable future? I'm sure folks listening would love to hear that.
Well, the junior market's basically shut. You know, there's selective access for some later stage development projects that have substantial resources, but grassroots exploration, for all intent and purposes, other than some flow through investing in Canada, is essentially dead. It's virtually impossible for juniors to raise money from traditional sources of capital and equity capital markets. And so the streaming and royalty companies have really been there as a steadfast provider of capital. And this is exactly the time we should be doing that, is putting that capital work in anticipation of the exploration that the industry needs to replace a depleting resource base. You know, we've seen a lot of M&A in the sector. You know, we've seen the big guys merge. I was the author of the biggest merger in the precious metal space between Newmont and Gold Corp. We've seen Agnico and Kirkland Lake merge. We've seen Barrick and Randgold merge, among others, and now Yamana and Goldfields. But that's a zero-sum game. It doesn't add any ounces into the ground. What it does is replace depleting reserve bases, depleting production profiles on those larger scale companies. It staves off the execution. But what it doesn't do is replace what the industry is depleting year in, year out, which is down 40% from its peak in 2012. The industry needs the juniors to be successful. They need them to invest in the ground, and they're far better off doing that and far better equipped to do that kind of grassroots work than the established producers are, who are frankly risk averse, necessarily so. The juniors need to embrace risk, be entrepreneurial, swing for the fences. The producers can't do that. So the juniors need to get access to capital. Right now, it is selective, and the streaming and royalty companies are filling that gap.
And I have to ask you on this because, as you just alluded to, you have extensive experience in junior mining. Working with that amazing merger that you were there right for Newmont Gold Corp. But this is something I've noticed that's been kind of interesting, and doing a number of these interviews for the Precious Metal Summit, is that last year the big difference is that a lot of the juniors are saying we're near-term production. This year, not so much. And so it's kind of interesting seeing that kind of change in thesis and rhetoric. I don't know if you've seen the same thing, but have you been, and is it because that I guess their financiers or people who are funding their projects are telling them, look, you need to go and expand the resource versus your focus on your near-term production? I mean, is that the thought process?
I think that's part of it. And I also think that, the very few that actually were near production were taken out. So the substantial resources out there have been taken out. Great Bear got taken out by Kinross, for example. We saw Newcrest get active with Pretium and others. Detour got taken out by Kirkland Lake before it itself got taken out by Agnico Eagle. So those single asset vehicles, by and large, that have substantial resource bases are at or near production, have been taken out. And so they're dwindling that supply. What's left is a number of exploration companies that have early stage opportunities, but no capital with which to explore those opportunities, better delineate what they have, grow those resources to make them attractive to the established producers who clearly need to replace depleting reserves in production.
Absolutely. All right. Well, then to close us out here, thank you again for your time. But from what you can tell us on the gold royalty side of things, what would you say are some of the company's near-term value catalysts that folks should pay attention to?
Look, it's the revenue growth. It's all about the growth. And the beauty of it is all of our 198 royalties are bought and paid for. We don't have to put another dime into them. So all we have to do is wait for that revenue growth to crystallize. We don't need to do anything. We don't need to put any capital into them. That cake is baking in the oven and it's about to come out.
Very good. All right. Well, David, with that, where can our audience go and find more information on Gold Royalty Corp?
On goldroyalty.com. Happy to have you sign up for our newsletter or call our 1-800 number. Quite often I return calls to shareholders. I'm delighted to do so and get connected and see what they're up to. And we're GROY, as you correctly pointed out, on the NYSE American as well.
Very good. Well, David, thank you so much for joining me today. Really do appreciate it. Good luck. Stay safe. And I'll see you in Beaver Creek.
Looking forward to it.
Very good. All right. And Gold Royalty will be presenting at the upcoming Precious Metal Summit Beaver Creek, happening September 13th through 16th, 2022. For more information, please go to precioussummit.com.